It's a question on many health-conscious minds. With so many sugar substitutes out there, which ones are truly safe and which should we avoid? We'll compare popular sweeteners, looking at their origins, how our bodies handle them, their calorie and glycemic impact, and any health concerns. Let's start by posing the core question. Are any of these sweeteners truly harmless, or do they all come with a catch? Aspartame, the classic chemical sweetener. Aspartame has been around since the 1980s, and it's probably the most well-known artificial sweetener out there. What's interesting is that it's actually made from two basic building blocks of protein, aspartic acid and phenylalanine, with a small chemical group called a methyl ester attached. Once you drink or eat something with aspartame, your body quickly gets to work. Digestive enzymes break it down into its individual parts, the amino acids, and a little bit of methanol. So aspartame itself never really hangs around in your bloodstream. Your body breaks it down right away. From a health perspective, that's kind of a big deal. Aspartame has zero effect on your blood sugar. Its glycemic index is literally zero, and it adds almost no calories. That's why it's been such a popular choice in diet sodas and sugar-free snacks for decades. It's also one of the most heavily studied sweeteners out there. In fact, the joint FAO-WHO Expert Committee on Food Additives, GECFA, has reviewed it and found that current intake levels are safe for the general population. That said, there's one important exception. Aspartame contains phenylalanine, which people with a rare genetic condition called PKU, phenylketonuria, can't process. For them, even a small amount can be dangerous, so you'll often see warning labels like contains phenylalanine on products that use aspartame. But like many things in nutrition, aspartame hasn't escaped controversy. In 2023, the World Health Organization's IARC, International Agency for Research on Cancer, classified aspartame as a possible carcinogen, Group 2B. That sounds alarming, but it's based on very limited evidence linked to a few specific cancer types. And it's important to know that other major health authorities, like the FDA and European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, have reviewed the same data and still consider aspartame safe when consumed within recommended limits. Even the American Cancer Society weighed in, explaining that while the IARC's classification raised concerns, broader scientific reviews haven't found any strong or consistent link between aspartame and cancer. A 2024 meta-review published in Diabetes and Metabolic Syndrome looked at several studies and found that aspartame didn't harm glucose levels or insulin response in trials lasting up to 12 weeks. So, what's the bottom line? Unless you have PKU, aspartame is generally well tolerated and safe to use in moderation. Sucralose, the chlorinated sweetener. Splenda. Let's talk about sucralose, the sweetener you probably know as Splenda. It's one of the most popular sugar substitutes out there, and chemically, it's actually pretty interesting. Sucralose is basically regular table sugar, but with a twist. 3 of its hydrogen-oxygen groups have been replaced with chlorine atoms. That little tweak makes it about 600 times sweeter than sugar, without any real calories. Now here's the part your body notices. When you eat sucralose, about 85% of it just passes straight through your gut, untouched. Your intestines don't absorb it. It moves onto your colon almost exactly the way it came in. The small amount that does get absorbed, your body either flushes it out as is or breaks it into tiny byproducts. So technically, it has zero glycemic impact and doesn't add any real calories. Sounds like a win, right? Well, not so fast. While most health authorities, like the FDA and EFSA, say sucralose is safe, newer research is raising some eyebrows. A 2022 study published in Frontiers in Nutrition showed that even low doses of sucralose, about the same amount humans typically consume, could mess with the gut microbiome in mice. It lowered some of the good bacteria and increased markers that signal inflammation. That's not great news. And in humans, the research is more mixed. Some studies hint that sucralose might interfere with gut hormones or tweak insulin levels, but results vary, depending on the individual and the study design. One thing that does stand out, though, sucralose tends to linger. Some studies show it can stay in the bloodstream for up to 18 hours and even make its way into breast milk. Now, to be clear, there's no confirmed link between sucralose and specific diseases in humans. But these findings have opened up a lot of questions about what we don't know yet. Maybe picture this: a lab scene where scientists are studying gut bacteria under a microscope, or a simple animation showing those chlorine atoms attaching to a sugar molecule. The bottom line? Sucralose might be calorie-free, but that doesn't mean it's completely neutral. It's one of those generally recognized as safe ingredients that might deserve a second look, especially if you're using it daily. Saccharin and Acesulfame K, the old guards. Let's talk about two of the OGs in the artificial sweetener world, Saccharin and Acesulfame potassium, or ACE-K. These sweeteners have been around for decades, and while they're not as trendy as Stevia or monk fruit, they're still used in tons of diet products today. First up, Saccharin, the sweetener behind the brand Sweet and Low. Believe it or not, Saccharin has been around since 1879. It was actually the first artificial sweetener ever discovered. Chemically, it's a type of benzene sulfonamide. But don't let the chemistry scare you. When you consume saccharin, your body absorbs about 85 to 95% of it and then sends it out through your urine without changing it at all. That means 0 calories and no impact on blood sugar. Now, you might have heard that saccharin was once linked to cancer. That came from rodent studies in the 1970s, where rats given super high doses developed bladder tumors. But here's the thing, those effects were specific to rats and haven't shown up in humans. In fact, organizations like Cancer Research UK now say there's no evidence saccharin causes cancer in people. So while it got a bad rap for a while, saccharin has largely been cleared of those early fears. Next, let's look at ACE-K, which is short for Acesulfame potassium. It's another no-calorie sweetener that's about 200 times sweeter than sugar. Chemically, it's a potassium salt, not something you'd find in your spice rack, but still safe to eat. Like saccharin, ACE-K is fully absorbed by the body, and then it just passes through unchanged in your urine. No calories, no glucose, no surprises. In terms of health concerns, there's not much. At normal intake levels, ACE-K appears to be safe. The only thing people occasionally complain about is its slightly bitter aftertaste, especially when it's used on its own. That's why manufacturers often blend it with other sweeteners, like in diet sodas or sugar-free gum. You could even picture a scene showing the back of a soda can, listing ingredients like ACE-K and saccharin, just to show how common these two really are. So where do we land on these old guard sweeteners? Both saccharin and ACE-K are FDA approved, widely studied, and considered safe when used within recommended daily limits. Their acceptable daily intake, ADI levels, are way above what most people actually consume. Unlike aspartame, they don't come with any special conditions like PKU, and while a few sensitive folks might experience mild digestive issues, that's about as bad as it gets. At the end of the day, saccharin and ACE-K aren't magic, but they've stood the test of time. For many people trying to cut sugar, they're still part of the toolbox, just not the flashiest tools on the shelf. Stevia and other natural sweeteners. Let's shift gears and talk about the more natural side of sweeteners, starting with stevia. Now, technically, stevia isn't an artificial sweetener. It comes from a plant called Stevia rebaudiana, which has been used for centuries in South America. But since it's commonly used as a sugar substitute today, it definitely earns a spot in this discussion. The sweetness in stevia comes from natural compounds called steviol glycosides, especially one called rebaudioside A. These compounds are extracted from the leaves and then used in products like stevia packets, drinks, and sugar-free desserts. The cool part? Stevia has virtually 0 calories and doesn't spike your blood sugar at all. In fact, Stevia might even help with blood sugar control. One 2024 meta-analysis that looked at 26 clinical trials and over 1,400 people found that stevia significantly lowered fasting glucose levels, especially in people with diabetes or higher BMI. So it's not just a neutral sugar swap, it could actually be beneficial. As for how our bodies handle it, we don't really digest stevia the same way we do other sugars. Instead, our gut bacteria break down the steviol glycosides into something called steviol, which then mostly gets flushed out. No calories, no insulin spike, no sugar crash. When it comes to safety, stevia's got a green light from most major health agencies, including the World Health Organization. The acceptable daily intake is around 1.8 milligrams per pound of body weight, which gives most people a pretty comfortable margin. The only small catch is that many commercial stevia products are blended with other stuff, like sugar alcohols or fillers. If you're looking for the cleanest option, go for pure steviol glycoside extracts. Now let's give a quick shout out to another natural sweetener, monk fruit, also known as luo hanguo. Like stevia, monk fruit contains powerful sweet compounds, in this case, mogrosides, that are extracted and used as a zero-calorie alternative to sugar. They don't raise your blood sugar either, and are generally considered safe. While there's a bit less research on monk fruit compared to stevia, it's used in pretty much the same way and is growing in popularity. Sugar alcohols, erythritol, and xylitol. Let's talk about sugar alcohols, specifically erythritol and xylitol. Even though the name sounds like something from a chemistry lab, sugar alcohols are actually pretty common in sugar-free or keto-friendly foods. They're often lumped in with artificial sweeteners, but they work a little differently. Erythritol is one of the most popular ones. If you've ever baked with sugar-free recipes or tried low-carb snacks, chances are you've seen it on the label. Chemically, it's a small molecule, a 4-carbon polyol, that tastes about 60 to 70% as sweet as regular sugar. It has almost 0 calories, around 0.2 per gram, and the best part? Its glycemic index is basically 0, which means it won't spike your blood sugar. Here's how it works in the body. Most of the erythritol you eat gets absorbed in the small intestine, but your body can't really use it for energy, so it just passes through and comes out in your urine, unchanged. Because so little reaches your colon, it usually doesn't cause bloating or gas, unlike some other sugar alcohols like sorbitol. That said, if you overdo it, erythritol can still have a mild laxative effect, a classic issue with polyols. But here's where things get interesting and a bit concerning. In early 2023, a large NIH-funded study published in Nature Medicine made headlines. It found that people with higher blood levels of erythritol had about twice the risk of heart attack or stroke over a 3-year period. Lab tests also showed erythritol could make platelets more sticky, meaning more prone to clot. And when healthy volunteers drank erythritol-sweetened drinks, their blood levels spiked and stayed elevated for days, at levels that triggered these effects in lab models. Now, does this mean erythritol is dangerous for everyone? Not exactly, but it does raise a red flag, especially for people who already have heart issues or are at higher cardiovascular risk, so it might be wise to use it in moderation until more research clears things up. Now let's quickly look at xylitol, another sugar alcohol you've probably seen in sugar-free gum or toothpaste. It's a little sweeter than erythritol and has a bit more calories, around 2.4 per gram, with a glycemic index of about 12. It's also great for dental health because it feeds the good bacteria in your mouth and helps fight cavities. But the catch? Too much of it can lead to digestive upset, including diarrhea. So again, moderation is key. The big takeaway here? Sugar alcohols like erythritol and xylitol are low glycemic, generally safe in small amounts, and can even have oral health benefits. But going overboard, especially with erythritol, might not be so sweet after all. So after diving into all this sweet science, what's the bottom line? First things first, no sweetener is a magical health food. But the good news is that most of them are considered safe, in moderation. If you're looking for the safest bets, stevia and monk fruit come out on top. They're both natural, have 0 calories, and don't spike your blood sugar. In fact, a big 2024 meta-analysis even showed that stevia could help lower fasting glucose, especially for people with diabetes or higher BMI. Erythritol is generally okay when used in moderation. It's popular for being nearly calorie-free and easy on blood sugar, but if you have any heart concerns, it might be smart not to go overboard. Some recent research suggests it could be linked to increased clotting, so better safe than sorry. Saccharin and Acesulfame K, ACE-K, are considered safe in small doses. These old-school sweeteners may not have the trendy image of newer options, but current science doesn't show any major risks when they're used within the recommended limits. Aspartame is also generally safe for most people. However, if you have phenylketonuria, PKU, a rare genetic condition, you'll need to avoid it completely, since your body can't properly process one of its components. Sucralose is still approved and widely used in everything from protein powders to diet drinks. But recent studies have raised questions about its potential effects on gut health, so it might be worth keeping an eye on future research if you're using it daily. So what's the takeaway? Sweeteners can help cut down on sugar, but they're not miracle workers. The World Health Organization actually came out with a reminder in 2023. Just swapping sugar for artificial sweeteners isn't a long-term strategy for weight loss or health. The real solution? Try to dial down your overall taste for sweetness, whether it comes from sugar or substitutes. And the healthiest sweetener of all, maybe it's the one you learn to need less of. And if you found this helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more science-backed insights, and let us know in the comments, what's your go-to sweetener and why?